It was a cold, grey morning, the biting air seeping into every corner of the city, announcing the imminent arrival of winter. The doors of the central hospital creaked open, giving way to a stooped and dishevelled old man. Robert, with his ragged clothes and slow gait, seemed to carry the weight of years and adversity. His eyes, dimmed by sadness and fatigue, desperately sought a glimmer of hope in the bustle of the hospital. The murmurs ceased momentarily as patients and staff noticed his presence. Looks of judgment and curiosity followed him as he made his way to the reception desk, where a young nurse, Ellie, was performing her daily tasks. Ellie, known for her dedication and kindness, couldn't help but be moved to see the fragility and need in Robert's eyes. "Can I help you, sir?" Ellie asked, setting aside the forms she was filling out. Robert looked up with effort, his trembling hands clinging to his cane. "I need to see a doctor." "I feel very bad," he replied in a barely audible voice, broken not only by the cold, but also by despair. The receptionist, who had been watching the scene with an air of disdain, intervened in a cold tone. "Do you have an appointment or health insurance?" Robert shook his head, his eyes red with fatigue and shame. "I don't have anything. I just need help." Before the receptionist could respond, Ellie stepped forward. "I'll take care of him," she said firmly, shooting a reproving look at her partner. "Please follow me, sir." Guiding him carefully, Ellie led Robert to a small examination room. As she helped him sit on the gurney, she could feel the fragility in his body, as if every movement took an effort. "My name is Ellie. I'm going to get some information from you, and then we'll call a doctor to evaluate you. Okay?" Robert nodded slowly, grateful for the young nurse's kindness. "Thank you, miss. My name is Robert." Ellie began asking him questions about his health and medical history, writing everything down accurately. As they talked, Robert told her snippets of his life, revealing the struggles and losses he had faced. His words were laden with a melancholy that resonated in the small room. "I lost my wife years ago, and everything has been downhill since then," he said with a deep sigh. "I have no one else in this world." Ellie felt a lump in her throat as she listened to his words. Empathy and the desire to help Robert grew stronger in her heart. "We're going to do everything we can to make you feel better, Robert," she said softly. After completing the preliminary examination, Ellie left the room to look for a doctor. As she walked down the halls, she couldn't stop thinking about the sadness in Robert's eyes and how fate had brought him there. She found Dr. Martinez, an experienced and compassionate doctor, and explained Robert's situation to him. "He needs immediate attention, doctor. I think he's seriously ill and has no one to take care of him." Dr. Martinez nodded, recognizing the urgency in Ellie's voice. "Let's go see him." Back in the examination room, Dr. Martinez performed a thorough evaluation. After a few minutes of silence, the doctor turned to Ellie with a grave expression. "Robert has a terminal illness. He doesn't have much time left." Ellie felt the world stop for an instant. She looked at Robert, who was anxiously awaiting an answer, and felt a surge of sadness and compassion. "I'm going to take care of him, doctor. I won't leave him alone," she said resolutely. Dr. Martinez nodded, respecting Ellie's decision. "I'll make the necessary arrangements for his palliative care. You'll make a big difference in his last days, Ellie." Ellie approached Robert and gently took his hand. "Robert, I'm going to be here for you. You won't be alone," she assured him, looking into his eyes with a silent promise of support and care. At that moment, an invisible but powerful bond formed between them. Ellie knew her life was about to change, and she was ready to face any challenge to give Robert the dignity and love he deserved in his final days. With each passing day, the bond between Robert and Ellie grew stronger. The cold walls of the Central Hospital became witnesses to the relationship that was forging between them. Ellie, always diligent, made sure that Robert received the best possible care. Their conversations became more personal, and each visit became a moment of genuine connection. "How are you feeling today, Robert?" Ellie asked one morning as she adjusted the pillow behind Robert's head. "A little better, thanks to you, Ellie." "You're an angel," Robert replied with a tired but sincere smile. Ellie blushed slightly, feeling a warmth in her heart. Although Robert's words were simple, they contained a deep gratitude that touched her in a special way. Days turned into weeks, and Ellie began to notice changes in herself. The long hours at the hospital, which had once seemed endless, were now filled with meaningful moments. Every time she was with Robert, she felt like she was doing something important, something beyond her duty as a nurse. One afternoon, while Ellie was busy with her duties, one of her colleagues approached her. "Ellie, what do you see in that old man?" asked Alice, a nurse with years of experience but a heart hardened by time. "I see a person who needs help, just like all our patients," Ellie replied firmly. "But you're getting too involved. It's unprofessional," Alice insisted. Ellie paused for a moment, sensing the truth in her colleague's words. However, she couldn't ignore what she felt. There was something about Robert that awakened in her a need to protect him, to be by his side until the end. That same night, as Ellie settled Robert into bed, he looked at her with an intensity that made her stop. "Ellie, there's something I need to tell you," Robert said, his voice trembling slightly. "Tell me, Robert." "I'm here to listen." Robert took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "Since I arrived here, you have been the light in my darkness. I never thought I would find someone like you in my final days. Ellie, I love you. Will you marry me?" Ellie felt the world stop. Robert's words were unexpected and profound. It wasn't a traditional romantic proposal, but it was laden with sincerity and emotion. "Robert, I don't know what to say," Ellie stammered, surprised and confused. "You don't need to answer now," Robert said, noticing the confusion on her face. "I just wanted you to know how I feel. You are very special to me." Ellie left the room with her heart racing. Robert's words echoed in her mind as she walked through the hospital corridors. The marriage proposal was not only unexpected but also put her in a difficult position. She knew her colleagues were already gossiping about her relationship with Robert, and accepting his proposal would only intensify the rumors. That night, in the solitude of her small apartment, Ellie reflected on what Robert had said. She remembered all the moments they shared, the stories he had told her, and the genuine connection she felt. However, she also thought about the implications of accepting the proposal and how it would affect her life and career. The next day, Ellie returned to the hospital with a renewed determination. She decided to talk to Robert about her feelings and the concerns she had. "Robert, I've been thinking a lot about what you said last night," Ellie began, as she sat down next to his bed. "What I feel for you is real and deep, but I'm also worried about what it could mean for us, especially with my work and what other people might think." Robert nodded, his eyes showing understanding and acceptance. "I understand, Ellie. I don't want to complicate your life. I just wanted you to know how I feel. Whatever you decide, I will respect it." Ellie took Robert's hand, feeling the warmth and weakness in his grip. "I've decided that I accept your proposal, Robert. I don't know how much time we have left, but I want to live it together, no matter what anyone else says." Robert's eyes filled with tears, and a smile of relief and happiness spread across his face. "Thank you, Ellie. You don't know what this means to me." At that moment, Ellie knew she had made the right decision. It wouldn't be easy, and they would face many challenges, but she was willing to fight for what she felt. Together, Ellie and Robert prepared to face the days they had left, united by a love that, although born in difficult circumstances, was as real and powerful as any other. The mornings at the hospital were increasingly tense for Ellie. Since the day she accepted Robert's proposal, the constant murmurings and judgmental looks from her colleagues became more pronounced. The corridors, once places of encounter and teamwork, now seemed like minefields of hurtful comments and malicious whispers. "Have you heard about Ellie's latest madness?" Alice would comment in the break room. "She's engaged to that old patient of hers. What must she be thinking?" "She must be desperate," another nurse would reply mockingly. "Who would want to marry a dying old man?" Ellie, who had entered to get coffee, overheard her colleague's words and felt anger and sadness mix in her chest. She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Good morning, Alice," she said firmly. "Yes, I'm engaged to Robert, and I'm very happy with my decision. I hope you can respect that." Alice was silent, surprised by the direct confrontation. Ellie took her coffee and left the room, feeling the stares of the others on her back. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined not to let the opinions of others affect her relationship with Robert. With each passing day, Robert's health slowly deteriorated. However, the connection between him and Ellie grew stronger. They spent hours talking, sharing stories of their lives and planning small moments of happiness. One afternoon, while Ellie was sitting by Robert's bed, he took her hand and looked at her with eyes full of gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you do for me, Ellie," Robert said softly. "You have changed my last days in a way I never imagined." "You don't have to thank me for anything, Robert," Ellie replied, squeezing his hand. "I'm here because I love you and because I want you to be okay." Robert smiled weakly and nodded. He knew that words could not fully express what he felt, but the look in his eyes said it all. At home, life had also changed for Ellie and her son, Jamie. Robert had become a father figure to the boy, and his presence brought a warmth and joy that had previously been lacking in their small apartment. Jamie adored Robert, and the two spent hours playing, reading stories, and sharing laughter. "Mom, can Robert read me another story tonight?" Jamie asked with shining eyes one night after dinner. Ellie smiled, feeling a mix of happiness and sadness. "Of course, honey. Let's go to the living room and he'll read you whatever you want." Robert, despite his weakness, strove to create special moments for Jamie. He read in a leisurely voice, pausing to explain the more complicated parts and making sure the boy understood every word. For Ellie, seeing Robert and Jamie together was a constant reminder of why she had made the right decision in accepting his proposal. However, Robert's illness continued to progress inexorably. There were days when he could barely get out of bed, and the pain became increasingly difficult to bear. Ellie, true to her promise, was always by his side, administering medication, providing comfort, and making sure he felt loved and cared for. One night, after putting Jamie to bed, Ellie sat down next to Robert and took his hand. "Robert, is there anything I can do to make you feel better?" she asked, her voice full of concern and tenderness. Robert looked at her with eyes full of affection and sadness. "Just stay with me, Ellie. Your presence is what gives me strength to go on." Ellie nodded, holding back tears. She knew that time was running out for them, but she was determined to make every moment count. They spent the night talking in low voices, sharing their fears and dreams and finding comfort in each other's company. The days turned into a cycle of care and farewells, of small moments of joy interspersed with the sadness of Robert's inevitable departure. However, in the midst of all the pain, the relationship between Robert and Ellie flourished, showing the beauty of a love that transcends difficulties and adversities. One day, while Ellie was adjusting Robert's pillows, he looked at her with unusual seriousness. "Ellie, when I'm gone, I want you to move on. I want you to live your life and find happiness. You have been my salvation, and I want you to be happy." Ellie felt a lump in her throat and nodded, unable to speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but in her heart she knew she would do everything she could to honor Robert's wish. Ellie was sitting by his bed, holding his hand tenderly as he struggled for breath. Jamie slept in his room, oblivious to the pain that gripped his mother. The dim light of the lamp cast shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of serenity and sadness. Robert opened his eyes slowly and met Ellie's gaze. "Thank you for being here," he whispered, his voice barely a murmur. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be, Robert," Ellie replied softly, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. Robert smiled faintly and squeezed Ellie's hand slightly. "I love you, Ellie. Don't forget to be happy," he said, his voice fading away. Ellie nodded, unable to speak, as tears finally streamed down her face. Robert closed his eyes and his breathing stopped, leaving an immense void in Ellie's heart. The room was silent, and Ellie knew she had lost someone who had changed her life forever. Robert's funeral was simple but moving. Few people attended, mostly hospital colleagues who had come to know his story in recent days. Ellie held Jamie's hand throughout the ceremony, feeling the weight of loss and the responsibility that now fell on her. A few days after the funeral, Ellie received an unexpected call from a law firm. They summoned her to an urgent meeting, and although she was intrigued, she couldn't imagine what she would discover. When she arrived at the office, a serious-looking lawyer greeted her and led her to a conference room. "Mrs. Ellie, thank you for coming," said the lawyer. "I am Mr. Martinez, in charge of Mr. Robert Carrera's will." Ellie looked at him in surprise. "Will? I didn't know Robert had left one." The lawyer nodded and indicated that she should take a seat. Robert Carrera was a very private man, but also very forward-thinking. He left us clear instructions on what to do after his death. Ellie listened attentively as the lawyer continued. "Robert was not just the man you met in his final days. Before retiring to live a simple life, he was a business tycoon. He possessed a considerable fortune that he decided to leave in the hands of someone who knew how to appreciate life and love authentically." Ellie was stunned. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Are you saying that Robert was a millionaire?" she asked, still processing the information. "Exactly. And he has left his entire fortune to you and your son, Jamie," said the lawyer, handing her an envelope containing the will documents. "Robert wanted you to use these resources to live a full life and to help others in need." Ellie opened the envelope with trembling hands. Robert's words in the will were clear and full of love. "My dear Ellie, if you are reading this, it means that I'm no longer by your side in this life. I want you to know that I loved you deeply and that I can never thank you enough for the happy moments you gave me in my last days. I leave all my fortune to you and Jamie so that you can live without worries and do good to others. Use this gift to find happiness and help those in need. I will always be with you, watching over you from wherever I am. With all my love, Robert." Ellie couldn't hold back the tears. Robert's generosity was overwhelming, and she felt a mixture of sadness and gratitude. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, looking at the lawyer. "You don't need to say anything, Mrs. Ellie. Just do what your heart tells you. Robert trusted that you would know how to honor his memory." As the days passed, Ellie began to plan how to use Robert's inheritance. She decided to keep working at the hospital, but she also started investing in projects that could improve the lives of those who needed it most. "I promise I'll do my best, Robert," she whispered into the air, hoping that somehow he could hear her. Her first step was to establish a foundation in Robert's name, dedicated to providing assistance to the neediest. She spent long hours planning and structuring projects, from homeless shelters to free healthcare clinics. A few months after Robert's death, Ellie returned to the hospital, this time not as an employee, but as the founder of the new charity. Her return was not easy. The murmurings and disdainful looks followed her like shadows. "Who does she think she is now?" Alice was heard to say as Ellie walked down the halls. "Just because she inherited money doesn't mean she's better than us." Ellie paused for a moment, feeling the sting of the malicious comments. She took a deep breath and continued walking with her head held high. She knew she couldn't be intimidated by the same people who had tried to tear her down before. In a meeting with the hospital administration, Ellie presented her project to establish a free clinic within the hospital itself. "We want to offer medical care to those who can't afford it," she explained in a clear and determined voice. The hospital director, a man with a serious expression and furrowed brow, looked at her skeptically. "Mrs. Ellie, we're not sure how this could work in practice. Also, we can't ignore the financial and logistical limitations." Ellie stood firm, undeterred. "We have the resources and the will. All we need is your support to implement the project. I'm sure that together we can make it happen." After a long discussion, they finally reached a provisional agreement to set up the clinic. Ellie felt a mixture of relief and victory, but she knew the real battle was just beginning. Weeks passed, and the clinic began to take shape. Despite the difficulties, Ellie managed to recruit a dedicated team of doctors and nurses who shared her vision. However, resistance within the hospital remained strong. Alice and other colleagues continued to make disparaging remarks, attempting to undermine her work. One afternoon, while Ellie was reviewing reports in her makeshift office inside the clinic, Alice entered unannounced. "Ellie, do you really think you can change anything here?" she asked sarcastically. "This is just a fantasy of yours." Ellie looked up, keeping her cool. "Alice, this is not a fantasy. It is a reality that we are building step by step. I don't expect you to understand, but I ask that you respect the effort we are all putting into this." Alice snorted and left the office, leaving an air of tension in her wake. Ellie took a deep breath and returned to her work. She knew the road would be arduous, but the memory of Robert and the well-being of those who depended on the clinic were her constant motivation. Over time, the clinic began to see its first patients. The stories of gratitude and hope she heard daily reinforced Ellie's determination. Every smile, every life improved was a testament to the positive impact they could have. At home, life was also improving. Jamie thrived under his mother's loving care and the security that Robert's inheritance had provided. Ellie never failed to remind Jamie of the legacy of kindness and generosity that Robert had left behind. Ellie had become a central figure in the community thanks to her dedication and efforts to improve the lives of those most in need. With the foundation up and running, her mission to help the disadvantaged expanded day by day. The morning began early at the foundation. Ellie, always the first to arrive, reviewed reports and planned the day's activities. The usual bustle of the office was interrupted when Alice appeared at the door. There was something different in her expression, a mixture of humility and determination. "Good morning, Ellie," said Alice, in a voice that reflected an unusual sincerity. "Good morning, Alice," replied Ellie, looking up from her papers. "How can I help you?" Alice took a deep breath before speaking. "I wanted to apologize for my past behavior. I didn't understand your vision or the magnitude of what you were trying to achieve. But now, I see the impact of your work, and I would like to be a part of it, if you'll let me." Ellie studied Alice for a moment, noting the genuine remorse in her eyes. It was a big and brave step, and Ellie decided to give her a chance. "Of course, Alice, I appreciate your honesty. There's always room for those who want to help," Ellie said with a warm smile. "Welcome to the team." Over time, Alice proved to be an invaluable collaborator. Her experience at the hospital and her renewed dedication made her a cornerstone of the foundation. She worked tirelessly alongside Ellie, and together they were able to expand the foundation's projects into new areas. They built health centers in underserved communities, providing free medical care to those who could not afford it. They also established educational programs for children and adults, offering opportunities for learning and personal development. Each new project was a tribute to Robert and his desire to change the world for the better. One afternoon, while reviewing the progress of the projects, Alice turned to Ellie with a question. "Ellie, how do you manage to stay so strong and motivated?" Ellie reflected for a moment before answering. "I think about Robert and what he wanted to achieve. His love and generosity are my guide. I also think about Jamie and the future I want to build for him. That gives me strength." Alice nodded, understanding the depth of Ellie's words. "I am grateful to be a part of this," Alice said. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." "Everyone deserves a second chance," replied Ellie with a smile. As the Foundation's projects grew, so did Ellie's reputation in the community. She became an admired and respected leader, someone people turned to for advice and support. Her ability to inspire others and mobilize resources made the Foundation a role model. They organized community events that fostered solidarity and mutual support. Ellie firmly believed in the power of community to generate lasting change, and her work reflected that conviction. They created volunteer programs that allowed local people to get directly involved in the Foundation's initiatives. Every activity, every program, every gesture of help was imbued with the spirit of Robert. Ellie made sure that his legacy lived on in every corner of the Foundation. They held annual ceremonies in his honor, remembering his life and his vision of a better world. At home, life with Jamie continued to be filled with love and memories. Every night, Ellie told him stories about Robert and taught him the values he had championed. Jamie, who now better understood the magnitude of Robert's legacy, looked at his mother with admiration. "Mom, when I grow up, I want to help people like you," he said one day, with determination in his childish voice. Ellie smiled and hugged him tightly. "And you will, Jamie, I know you will." With the growth of the Foundation and the expansion of its projects, Ellie began to face new challenges. Not everyone was happy with her success and the influence she was gaining in the community. There were those who saw her rise with envy and resentment, questioning her motives and sowing doubts about her intentions. One afternoon, while Ellie was reviewing reports in her office, Alice entered with a worried look on her face. "Ellie, there are rumors circulating about you and the Foundation," she said, closing the door behind her. "Some people are saying that you are using the money for personal gain." Ellie sighed, feeling the weight of the unfair accusations. "I knew this could happen," she replied. "Not everyone understands our intentions or sees the positive impact of our work. But we can't let these rumors deter us from our path." Alice nodded, admiring Ellie's firmness. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to keep doing our work. The truth always prevails, and if necessary, we'll be even more transparent in our actions and finances. The community knows us and will support us. Despite her determination, the criticism continued. Articles in local newspapers questioned the legitimacy of the foundation, and some community members were wary. However, Ellie was not alone. Many people, beneficiaries of the programs and volunteers, came together to defend her work. At a community meeting, Ellie decided to address the accusations head-on. Standing before a packed room, she spoke with sincerity and passion. "I know there are doubts about our intentions and how we manage the Foundation's resources. But I want you to know that everything we do is for the benefit of this community. We are here to help and to make a positive difference, and we are willing to be transparent at all times." A man in the crowd stood up. "My family and I have received support from this foundation. Without their help, I don't know where we would be now. Ellie has changed our lives for the better, and I trust her." Other voices joined in, sharing stories of how the foundation had provided them with crucial assistance in times of need. Ellie felt a surge of gratitude and strength as she listened to these testimonies. After the meeting, Ellie met with her team to discuss next steps. "We need to continue to be transparent and demonstrate with actions what we are doing," she said. "Every challenge is an opportunity to strengthen our mission and show the community that we are here to stay." Community support became more evident over time. Volunteers turned out in greater numbers, offering their time and skills to help with the various projects. Donations increased, and the foundation was able to expand its services even further. One day, while Ellie was walking through one of the community centers, she encountered a woman who had been one of her most vocal critics. The woman approached with an expression of remorse. "Ellie, I want to apologize. I was unfair to judge you without knowing the whole truth. I have seen the positive impact of your work, and now I understand your intentions. Is there anything I can do to help?" Ellie smiled, accepting the apology graciously. "Thank you. There's always room for more hands willing to help. We'd love to have your support." The woman joined as a volunteer, and her change of heart was a testament to the power of perseverance and truth. As Ellie faced each obstacle with integrity and compassion, the foundation grew stronger and gained even more respect. The difficult experiences not only tested Ellie's resolve, but also reinforced her faith in the goodness and solidarity of the community. Facing difficulties had strengthened Ellie and her community. With each act of kindness, with each obstacle overcome, Robert's legacy lived on through them, lighting the way to a future full of hope and unity. Years passed, and Ellie's efforts bore fruit. The charitable project she had started in Robert's name expanded, benefiting thousands of people in the community. Clinics, schools, and community centers sprang up throughout the city, transforming lives and providing opportunities where there had once been only despair. One morning, Ellie was reviewing the annual reports in her office when Alice walked in with a radiant smile. "Ellie, this year's numbers are impressive," she said, placing the documents on the table. "We've served over 10,000 people in our clinics alone, and graduation rates in our schools have increased significantly." Ellie smiled, feeling a surge of pride and gratitude. "It's amazing to see how much this has grown. Robert would be so proud of what we've accomplished," she replied. Alice nodded, sharing the sentiment. "No doubt, and it's all thanks to your leadership and dedication." Life at home had also found a harmonious balance. Jamie, now a teenager, was developing with confidence and joy. The relationship between mother and son was strong, based on love and mutual respect. Every night they shared stories about their day, always remembering Robert and the legacy he had left behind. "Mom, Today at school we talked about our heroes. I talked about Robert and you," Jamie said one night while they were having dinner. Ellie felt a lump in her throat and smiled. "Really? And what did you say?" "I said that Robert taught us what true love and generosity mean, and that you have carried on his mission with courage. I'm very proud of you both." Ellie hugged him, feeling deeply grateful for the son she was raising. To commemorate the Foundation's achievements and honor Robert's memory, Ellie organized a special event each year. At these celebrations, beneficiaries, volunteers, and community members would gather to share stories, enjoy music and food, and reflect on the impact of the work done. At one such celebration, Ellie took the stage and looked out at the assembled crowd. "Today we celebrate not only the achievements of our foundation, but also the memory of a man who taught us all what it means to love and give without expecting anything in return," she said in a firm voice. "Robert Carrera was and continues to be an inspiration to us all. Every act of kindness, every life touched, is a tribute to his legacy." The applause was deafening. People of all ages stood to applaud and honor the memory of Robert and Ellie's tireless work. Among them, Jamie watched with pride, aware of the positive impact his mother had had on so many lives. After the event, Ellie walked through the community center's garden, where they had planted a tree in Robert's memory. She stopped beneath its branches and closed her eyes, letting the gentle breeze remind her of the moments they had shared. "We did it, Robert," she whispered. "All this is for you, and thanks to you." Ellie's life, though filled with challenges, had found a deep and lasting purpose. Every day she woke up with the certainty that she was doing the right thing, that she was carrying out a mission of love and compassion. And every night as she lay down to sleep, she felt Robert's presence guiding and supporting her. The Foundation's work continued to expand, reaching new communities and touching more lives. Ellie surrounded herself with a dedicated team who shared her vision and passion, ensuring that Robert's legacy would endure for years to come. At home, happiness and tranquility reigned. Ellie and Jamie lived a life full of meaning, always grateful for Robert's influence. Their days were filled with simple but meaningful moments, from shared laughter at dinner to deep conversations under the stars. On a starry night, as they gazed at the sky from the porch, Jamie asked, "Mum, do you think we'll always be able to do this? Help people and make a difference?" Ellie looked at him with tenderness and determination. "Yes, Jamie, always. As long as we keep love and compassion in our hearts, we can always make a difference." Ellie sat in her favorite armchair, gazing out the window of her porch. The same house that had witnessed so many joys and challenges over the years. Now her hands showed the signs of time, and her hair had lost its youthful sheen, but her eyes still held the spark of determination and love that had always guided her. "Mom, do you need anything?" Jamie asked, now a grown man, as he entered the room. Ellie smiled, seeing in her son the reflection of her own dreams and efforts. "I'm fine, dear. I was just remembering," she replied, her voice soft but full of life. Jamie sat down beside her, taking her hand affectionately. "We've accomplished so much, thanks to you and Robert. All this is because of you," he said, looking out at the garden filled with flowers and trees planted in memory of those who had been helped by the Foundation. Ellie nodded, her thoughts returning to the days when it had all begun. The initial difficulties, the criticism, and then the growth and success. She felt a surge of pride as she thought about how they had transformed so many lives. "It's your turn now, Jamie. I trust that you will carry on Robert's legacy and mine. You have proven to be a compassionate and capable leader," Ellie said, looking at her son with love and confidence. Jamie nodded, knowing the responsibility that was being bestowed upon him. "I will do my best to honor what you started," he promised, his voice firm and determined. Over the years, the story of Ellie and Robert had inspired many people. The foundation had become a symbol of hope and positive change. Ellie had spoken at numerous conferences, sharing her story and motivating others to act with love and compassion. Always remember, Jamie, that it's not just the work we do, but how we do it. With integrity, with love, and with the will to make a real difference, Ellie said, squeezing her son's hand. Ellie's words resonated not only within her family, but also in the community and beyond. Her story had become a beacon of inspiration for many, showing that love and dedication can change the world. Finally, the time came for Ellie to rest. One quiet night, surrounded by her family and feeling peace in her heart, she closed her eyes and let herself be carried away by the memories of a life well lived. She was comforted to know that her legacy would continue through Jamie and all those who had been touched by her work. "I love you, Robert. I'm ready to be reunited with you," she whispered, feeling a familiar warmth around her. And so Ellie departed from this world, leaving a lasting impact and a life full of meaning. Jamie, now at the helm of the foundation, continued to expand its reach, ensuring that the legacy of his mother and Robert lived on in every act of kindness and every life changed. Ellie's legacy became a beacon of hope in the community. The stories of her life and dedication were told again and again, inspiring future generations to act with love and compassion. Life went on, and the foundation thrived under Jamie's leadership. Community centers multiplied, offering help and hope to more and more people. Ellie and Robert's legacy grew stronger with each passing day, reminding everyone that love and compassion are the most powerful forces for change. At the house that had been Ellie's home, Jamie placed a memorial plaque in the garden, in memory of Ellie and Robert, whose love and dedication changed the world. And so, the legacy of Ellie and Robert lived on, inspiring generations to come and reminding everyone that, with love and compassion, anything is possible. Hello, dear viewers. The story of Ellie and Robert has come to an end, but the messages of love, compassion, and perseverance continue to resonate in our hearts. I hope that through this story, you have felt the power of love and sacrifice, as well as the importance of helping others in their times of need. If you found this story meaningful and moving, don't forget to give it a like, share this video with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Also, be sure to click the bell to receive notifications every time we post a new video. Leave your comments below. We want to hear your thoughts and emotions about this story. See you in the next video. We wish you a wonderful and love-filled day.